This video is created for informational and educational purposes only. I am not a U.S. certified professional coder (CPC), and I do not claim to be one. The content presented in this video is based on research, publicly available information, and general learning experience to give viewers an overview of the profession. This video should not be considered professional, medical, or legal advice. For official certification or career decisions, please consult authorized institutions and official sources. You've seen it. That crisp white envelope that shows up in your mailbox a few weeks after a doctor's visit. You tear it open, and inside is a document that might as well be written in an alien language. You see the name of the hospital, the date of service, and then the numbers. A massive, terrifying number at the bottom that says, amount due. But before you get to that, you scan the lines above it. A description you barely recognize, like, office outpatient visit, est, 30 to 39 minutes, and next to it a code, 99204. Next to another line, maybe something like malaise and fatigue, you see another code, R53.83. What are these codes? To most people, they're just gibberish. A bureaucratic mystery that somehow justifies the bill you're about to pay. But what if I told you those codes are not just gibberish? What if I told you they are a language? A secret language that powers the entire multi-trillion-dollar U.S. healthcare industry. And the people who speak this language, the people who translate your doctor's visit into these exact codes, are some of the most in-demand, under-the-radar professionals in the country. They are the invisible engine of every hospital, every clinic, every doctor's office. And here's the kicker. Many of them, like me, work from home, make an incredible living, and never had to spend 4 years getting a traditional college degree. My name is, well, you can call me your guide. And I am a certified professional coder. For the next hour, I am going to pull back the curtain completely. I'm not just going to tell you about my job. I am going to show you. This isn't a theory lesson. This is a day in the life. You are going to sit next to me virtually from the moment I pour my first cup of coffee and log into my system, to the moment I close my laptop for the day. You will see the software I use. You will see how I analyze a real, completely anonymized doctor's note. You will learn how I think, how I investigate, and how I transform a complex medical story into a handful of simple, powerful codes. Why should you care? Because if you're feeling stuck, if you're looking for a career that is stable, challenging, and high demand, and offers the freedom to work from anywhere with an internet connection, this might be the most important video you watch all year. This is a career path that doesn't care about your age, your background, or whether you have a fancy diploma hanging on your wall. It cares about one thing, your ability to become a detective. A few years ago, I was not a detective. I was working a soul-crushing job in retail management. The hours were brutal, the pay was mediocre, and my future felt capped. I was smart, I was a hard worker, but I was on a hamster wheel, running faster and faster just to stay in the same place. I knew I needed a change, but the thought of going back to college for 4 years and taking on tens of thousands of dollars in new debt felt like jumping from a sinking ship into a shark tank. I searched for skills I could learn online, for certifications that actually meant something. I looked into IT, project management, bookkeeping, and then I stumbled onto this. Medical coding. First, I was skeptical. Sounded boring. Like data entry. I pictured a monotonous job, just typing numbers into a spreadsheet all day. Let me be the first to tell you, I could not have been more wrong. This job is not data entry. Data entry is taking information from one box and putting it into another. Medical coding is about understanding, interpretation, and investigation. It is a puzzle. Every single chart is a new case to solve. You get a patient's record, the doctor's notes, the lab results, the radiologist's report, and you have to piece it all together. You have to read the story the doctor wrote and figure out the why, the what, and the how. Why was the patient here? What did the doctor discover? What did they do about it? Your job is to translate that entire narrative into the universal language of medical codes. Think of it like being a translator at the United Nations, but instead of translating Russian to English, you're translating a diagnosis of non-displaced spiral fracture of the shaft of the right tibia into S82.251A. You're translating a procedure like a laparoscopic cholecystectomy into CPT code 47562. These codes are everything. They are how the doctor gets paid by the insurance company. They are how the hospital tracks the quality of its patient care. They are how the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC, collects data to track outbreaks, to fund research, and to understand the health of our entire nation. The work we do is the bedrock of healthcare analytics. It's critical, and because it's so critical, it pays well. The demand for good coders is relentless, and it's growing every year as medicine gets more complex. Hospitals and insurance companies are desperate for accurate coders because a simple mistake, one wrong digit in a code, can mean the difference of thousands of dollars on a single claim. It can trigger audits, cause massive delays, and create huge compliance headaches. So they are willing to pay a premium for people who can get it right. People who have the certification, who have the skill, and who have the attention to detail to be a medical detective. So what are we going to do today? We're going to demystify this entire world. I'm going to show you that this is not some impossible skill that requires a genius IQ. It requires curiosity, it requires a love of learning, and it requires the ability to focus and solve problems. I'm going to walk you through my morning routine, how I set up my workspace for maximum productivity. I'll show you the software, the encoders, the digital codebooks that are my tools of the trade. Then we'll dive into the queue. I'll pick a representative case, something interesting, something that shows you the real thought process. We'll read the doctor's note together. I'll pause and explain the medical terminology in plain English. I'll show you how I highlight the key pieces of information, the clues that I need to solve the case. You'll see my screen as I navigate the massive ICD-10 codebook. That's the book for diagnoses, the why the patient was seen. Then we'll jump into the CPT codebook, the one for procedures, the what the doctor did. I'll show you the guidelines, the rules, and the little notes in the margins that can make or break a claim. You'll see how it's not just about finding a code that looks right. It's about finding the most specific code that is supported by the documentation. That's the entire game. Specificity. We'll tackle modifiers, those little two-digit codes that add crucial details to a procedure. We'll talk about the constant back and forth, the queries we sometimes have to send to doctors when their documentation is unclear. You'll see the full picture, the analytical side, the communication side, and the organizational side. By the end of this, you will not only understand what a medical coder does, you will feel like you've done it yourself. You will know if this is something that sparks your interest, something that clicks with the way your brain works. This isn't a sales pitch. This is a test drive, a chance for you to see if you have the mind of a medical detective. So, forget everything you thought you knew. Forget the idea that you need to be a nurse or a doctor to have a respected, well-paying career in healthcare. Forget the idea that working from home is only for computer programmers or graphic designers. There is a whole other world out there. A world of logic, language, and medicine, and the barrier to entry is lower than you could ever imagine. It's a world that changed my life, and today I'm inviting you in. My system is booting up. My queue is loading. The first chart of the day is waiting. It's a complex case from the emergency department, and just from a quick glance I can already see it's going to be a challenge. Let's solve it together. Alright, first chart. The system presents me with a digital wall of text, but to me it's not just words. It's a story. This is a 68-year-old male who came into the emergency department last night at 10:32 p.m. Chief complaint: crushing chest pain. My job is to read this story, understand it, and then translate it into a universal language, the language of medical codes. This language is what tells the insurance company exactly what happened to this patient, and exactly what the hospital did to help him. Get it right, and the hospital gets paid correctly. The patient's medical record is accurate for future care, and the data can be used for vital research. Get it wrong? The consequences are huge. Denied claims, audits, compliance issues, and worst of all, an inaccurate medical history for the patient. No pressure, right? So let's be detectives. The first section I read is the history of present illness, the HPI. This is the patient's story in the doctor's words. It says, patient reports sudden onset of 10 out of 10 substernal chest pressure, radiating into the left jaw and arm. Onset approximately 1 hour prior to arrival. Associated with diaphoresis, which is profuse sweating, and dyspnea or shortness of breath. These are the classic textbook symptoms of a heart attack. But in coding we never assume. We can't. We can only code what is definitively documented. The doctor's suspicion is a clue, not a conclusion. I scroll down, past the review of systems, past the physical exam findings. I'm looking for data, for objective evidence. And there it is. The lab results and diagnostic tests. A troponin I level is critically high. Troponin is a protein released into the bloodstream when the heart muscle is damaged. A high level is a huge red flag. Next, I pull up the EKG, the electrocardiogram. I'm not a doctor, I cannot interpret this EKG myself, but I can read the physician's official interpretation, which is documented right below the image. And the words jump off the page. ST elevation in anterior leads. Bingo! That is the smoking gun. Now I have the two critical pieces of the puzzle: the patient's story, the symptoms, and the objective clinical evidence, the high troponin and the EKG findings. With this, I can go to the final diagnosis documented by the physician. And there it is, clear as day. Acute ST elevation myocardial infarction of the anterior wall. A STEMI, a major heart attack. This is where the translation begins. First, the diagnosis. We use the ICD-10 CM codebook for this. ICD stands for International Classification of Diseases. It's the book of why. Why was the patient here? I don't just look up heart attack. That's not specific enough. The world of coding is a world of specificity. I start in the index. M for myocardial, then infarction, then acute, then ST elevation, then anterior wall. Following this trail leads me to a very specific code. I-21.09. That single code, I-21.09, tells a complete story. It says the patient had an acute heart attack, it was a specific type called a STEMI, and it affected the front wall of the heart. That level of detail is critical. But we're only halfway done. We've established the why. Now we need to code for the what. What did the emergency department staff actually do for this patient? For this, we turn to the CPT codebook. CPT stands for Current Procedural Terminology. These are the codes for services and procedures. Looking through the note, I see they performed an EKG. That gets a code, 93010. They ran a battery of lab tests, including that critical cardiac enzyme panel. That gets a code, 82550. They administered aspirin and nitroglycerin. Those are medications, and while important, they are typically bundled into the main service code for the visit. And that brings us to the most important, and often the most complex procedure code of all for an ER visit, the Evaluation and Management Code, or E&M code. This code represents the doctor's cognitive work. It's the code for the thinking, the examination, the decision-making that went into figuring out what was wrong and how to treat it. E&M coding is part art, part science. For an ER visit, there are 5 levels of service from 99281, which is a low-level visit like for a simple splinter, all the way up to 99,285, which is for a patient with a high-severity problem that poses an immediate threat to life or limb. So which level is this? To determine that, we have to analyze 3 key components: the number and complexity of problems addressed, the amount and complexity of data to be reviewed, and the risk of complications or death. Let's break it down for our patient. First, complexity of problems. The doctor diagnosed an acute STEMI. That is, by definition, a problem of the highest severity, a direct threat to the patient's life. So that box is checked for the highest level. Second, data reviewed. The doctor didn't just talk to the patient. He ordered and reviewed the EKG. He ordered and reviewed multiple lab tests. He had to synthesize this data to arrive at a diagnosis. That qualifies as a high amount of data review. Second box checked. Third, and most importantly, risk. The risk of morbidity and mortality for an acute STEMI is severe. The management options considered, like immediate cardiac catheterization, which is what this patient was being prepped for, carry significant risk. The doctor's decision-making was at the absolute highest level. This isn't just a high-risk situation. It's the definition of it. With all 3 components pointing to the highest level of intensity, I can confidently assign the E&M code 99285. Choosing a 99284, 1 level lower, would be leaving thousands of dollars on the table and wouldn't accurately reflect the intensity of care this patient required. Choosing a level that's too high when it's not supported by the documentation is a one-way ticket to a failed audit and massive financial penalties. It has to be perfect. So, for this one encounter, we have a list of codes. The ICD-10 code, I-21.09, for the diagnosis, and the CPT codes, 99285 for the high-level ER visit, 93010 for the EKG, and the codes for the lab panels. Each code tells a piece of the story. Together, they create a complete, accurate, and justifiable narrative of the patient's visit. But just as I'm about to finalize this chart, my eyes catch something in the physician's secondary notes. He wrote, "Patient also presents with cough and fever, rule out pneumonia." A classic coding conundrum. The phrase "rule out." In the outpatient world, which includes the emergency department, we cannot code for probable, suspected, or rule out conditions. We can only code for what is confirmed. If the doctor suspected pneumonia but didn't have the evidence like a chest x-ray to confirm it, I cannot add the code for pneumonia. Doing so would be fraud. Instead, I have to code for the symptoms the patient presented with. So I need to find the ICD-10 codes for cough and fever. This is a perfect example of how a coder acts as a compliance gatekeeper. We have to know the rules inside and out to protect the hospital and ensure the data is clean. Okay, I've added the codes for the cough and fever. I've double-checked all my primary and secondary codes against the documentation. The story is complete, it's accurate, and it's compliant. I hit submit. The codes are sent to the billing department, and a claim is generated. My work on this one life, this one critical moment in the ER is done. One chart down. The queue says I have 117 more to go. The very next chart pops up. It's completely different. This isn't an emergency. It's a surgical case. A 45-year-old female elective procedure. I opened the operative report from the surgeon. The title reads, Laparoscopic cholecystectomy, a routine gallbladder removal. These are usually straightforward. You have one code for the cholecystectomy, and you're done. But I've learned over the years that there's no such thing as routine in coding. You have to read every single word. As I scan the body of the report, my eyes lock onto a phrase the surgeon dictated. A tiny detail buried in a dense paragraph of medical jargon that could change everything about how this surgery gets paid. It's a detail most people would miss, but it's my job not to. And this one little detail could mean the difference between a simple claim and a complex appeal. So what was it? What was that one little detail buried in the surgeon's operative report? It was 3 words. Extensive lysis of adhesions. Now, to anyone outside of the medical world, that sounds like pure gibberish. But to a coder, those 3 words are a flashing neon sign. Lysis of adhesions means the surgeon had to spend time cutting through internal scar tissue, likely from a previous surgery, just to get to the organ they were trying to operate on. Imagine trying to fix a pipe behind a wall, but first you have to spend an hour carefully untangling and cutting away a massive web of old, hardened cables that someone else left there years ago. That's the lysis of adhesions. And the word extensive? That's the jackpot. Because here's the thing. A little bit of cleanup work is usually considered part of the main surgery package. The insurance company assumes the surgeon might have to snip a few things here and there to get a clear view. They don't pay extra for that. It's just part of the job. But when the surgeon documents that the work was extensive, it tells me this wasn't a routine cleanup. This was a significant, time-consuming obstacle that complicated the entire procedure. This one detail completely changes my strategy. This isn't just about finding the right code for the gallbladder removal anymore. It's about accurately telling the entire story of what happened in that operating room. A story that justifies higher reimbursement for the hospital and ensures the surgeon is compensated for the additional, difficult work they performed. If I miss this, the hospital loses money. Plain and simple. We're talking about the cost of an extra 30 or 45 minutes in a fully staffed operating room, anesthesiologists, nurses, surgical techs, not to mention the surgeon's time. That can easily add up to thousands of dollars. Gone. All because 3 words were overlooked in a 2-page report. So let's break this down. Let's code this case together. First, I need to identify the primary procedure. The surgeon performed a laparoscopic cholecystectomy, which is the removal of the gallbladder using a minimally invasive technique. I pull up my encoder software, which is basically a superpowered digital version of the massive codebooks, and I find the CPT code. CPT stands for Current Procedural Terminology. These are the codes for what the doctor did. In this case, the code is 47562. That's our foundation. Next, I need the diagnosis. Why did the patient need this surgery in the first place? You can't just tell an insurance company, "We took out a gallbladder." You have to tell them why. This is where the ICD-10 codes come in. ICD-10 stands for the International Classification of Diseases, 10th revision. These are the codes for what the patient has. The surgeon's report states the patient had acute cholecystitis with cholelithiasis. In plain English, the gallbladder was severely inflamed, and it was full of gallstones. That diagnosis points me to a specific code, K80.00. So now I have the procedure, what we did, and the diagnosis, why we did it. 47562 and K80.00. They link together. This is called medical necessity. The diagnosis justifies the procedure. So far so good. This is textbook coding. Most gallbladder removals would end right here. But this one is different. We have our extensive lysis of adhesions. Now, my first instinct might be to look for a separate CPT code for the adhesion removal. And there is one. But here's where the rules and the complexity of the system come into play. There's something called the National Correct Coding Initiative, or NCCI edits. It's a giant complex set of rules that dictates which codes can and cannot be billed together for a single patient on a single day. Think of it like a referee in a football game. You can't have two players illegally doing the same job at the same time. The NCCI edits say that for this specific gallbladder surgery, the code for lysis of adhesions is considered bundled. It's included in the main procedure. If I were to add that second code, the insurance company's computer system would automatically reject it. Denied. No questions asked. This is where a new coder might get stuck. They'd see the NCCI edit and think, oh well, I guess we can't get paid for that extra work. They just code the simple gallbladder removal and move on, leaving thousands of dollars on the table. But that's not the end of the story. This is where we use one of the most powerful and most scrutinized tools in a coder's arsenal: a modifier. A modifier is a two-digit code that you add to the end of a CPT code to provide more information. It changes the story. It adds a crucial detail. The modifier I'm looking at here is modifier 22. It stands for Increased Procedural Services. Attaching a modifier 22 to that 47562 is like raising a giant red flag for the insurance company. It says, hey, stop. Don't just process this claim automatically. This surgery was significantly more difficult, took significantly more time, and involved way more work than the standard 47562. You need to have a human being actually read the operative report to understand why we deserve to be paid more for it. Using a modifier 22 is a big deal. You can't just slap it on any case that took a few minutes longer than average. You need ironclad documentation to back it up. The surgeon's note has to be my evidence. It has to paint a clear picture of the difficulty. I'm rereading the report now, looking for the proof. The surgeon wrote, upon entry into the abdomen, dense and extensive adhesions were noted throughout the right upper quadrant, completely obscuring the gallbladder and surrounding structures. An additional 45 minutes of operative time was required for careful, sharp and blunt dissection to lyse these adhesions before the primary procedure could even begin. Bingo! That is the money sentence. He gives me the magic word. Extensive. He quantifies the extra time, 45 minutes, and he explains the impact that it completely obscured the surgical field. This is my justification. This is the evidence I need to confidently append modifier 22. So the final code isn't just 47562. It's 47,562 to 22. That tiny minus 22 tells a story of complexity, of unexpected difficulty, and of a surgeon's skill in overcoming a serious obstacle. It transforms a routine claim into a special case that requires manual review. And it gives the hospital a legitimate chance to be paid fairly for the resources they used. This is the essence of my job. I'm not just a data entry clerk picking codes from a list. I'm a translator. I'm an investigator. I take the highly technical, complex language of a surgeon and I translate it into a universal language of codes that the financial side of healthcare can understand. Every single chart is a puzzle. It's a story, and my job is to make sure the story is told completely and accurately. Get it right and the system works. The hospital is paid, the doctor is compensated, and the patient's insurance covers what it's supposed to. Get it wrong and the dominoes start to fall. Denials, appeals, revenue loss, and confusing bills sent to the patient. I finalize the codes for this case, linking the diagnosis to the modified procedure, and I feel that little spark of satisfaction. I solved the puzzle. I found the key detail and I know how to use it. I've done my part to make sure that 45 minutes of intense, difficult work in an operating room doesn't just vanish into thin air. But my queue of charts is still full. There's no time to celebrate. I click on the next one. It's an emergency department visit. As the record loads, I see the patient's chief complaint: chest pain. My focus immediately shifts. Chest pain is one of the most complex and high-stakes diagnoses to code from the emergency room. It could be anything from simple heartburn to a life-threatening heart attack. The physician has to rule out the worst-case scenarios, and my coding has to reflect that entire investigative process. This isn't a neat and tidy surgery with a beginning, a middle, and an end. This is the chaos of the ER, captured in a physician's hurried notes. And buried in those notes will be the clues that tell me the real story. The clock is ticking for the patient, and in a way it's ticking for me too. I have to get this one right. My first pass is a high-level scan, like a reconnaissance mission over enemy territory. I'm not diving into the details yet. I'm mapping the landscape. I'm looking for the big landmarks. Chief complaint, history of present illness, physician's exam, orders, and ultimately the final diagnosis. Each section is a different part of the story, and they all have to connect. If they don't, that's a red flag. A big one. Okay, let's start where the doctor started. Chief complaint: chest tightness and shortness of breath. Simple enough. This is the title of our story. It's what brought the patient through those sliding glass doors in the first place. For a coder, the chief complaint is the anchor. Everything that follows, every test, every question, every procedure, must be medically necessary to investigate this specific complaint. If I see a charge for an ankle x-ray on a patient who came in for chest pain, I know something's wrong. Either the documentation is missing a piece of the story, like the patient fell on their way in, or it's an error. Either way, that anchor tells me where to look. Now for the real meat of the encounter, the history of present illness, or HPI. This isn't a checklist. This is the narrative. This is where the physician becomes an author, and I become a literary critic. I'm dissecting their story for specific, billable elements. There are 8 of them, and the number of elements the doctor documents helps determine the level of service we can bill for. It's a point system, a game of evidence. I'm reading the note now. Patient is a 58-year-old male who presents with substernal chest tightness, which he describes as a pressure. Okay, that's 2 elements right there. Location: substernal, meaning behind the breastbone. And quality: pressure. That's not a sharp pain, not a burning sensation. It's pressure. That specific word matters. The note continues. He rates the severity as a 7 out of 10. That's element number 3, severity. Insurance companies want to know this. Was it a minor ache or a debilitating pain? A 7 out of 10 is significant. It justifies a higher level of workup. The tightness started approximately 2 hours ago while he was mowing his lawn. Bingo! 2 more elements. Duration: 2 hours. And context: it happened during physical exertion. This isn't random pain that appeared while watching TV. It's linked to an activity. That's a critical clue for the doctor, and a critical piece of evidence for me. We're up to 5 elements. This is already shaping up to be a detailed visit. He stopped mowing, sat down, but the pressure has not subsided. That's a modifying factor. What did the patient do to make it better or worse? In this case, resting didn't help. That's another checkmark for me. Another piece of the puzzle showing how sick this patient is. Element 6. He also reports associated shortness of breath and mild diaphoresis. Diaphoresis is just a fancy word for sweating. These are associated signs and symptoms. The chest pressure isn't happening in a vacuum. It brought friends. And these aren't good friends. For a coder, this phrase is gold. It paints a more complete picture of the patient's condition. Element 7. And there it is. The doctor has documented 7 out of the 8 possible HPI elements. To bill for the highest, most complex level of an emergency room visit, you only need 4. This doctor's note is thorough. It's a fortress of documentation. It tells me this wasn't a quick in-and-out visit. The physician was concerned, and they took the time to build a detailed case for that concern. Next, I scan the review of systems, or ROS. This is the part of the exam where the doctor plays detective and asks a rapid-fire series of questions about other parts of the body. Any headaches? Dizziness? Nausea? Vomiting? Leg swelling? It might seem random to the patient, but the doctor is casting a wide net, looking for other clues that might be related to the main problem. For me, the coder, the number of systems the doctor reviews is another key component in determining the visit level. It's another measure of thoroughness. The doctor in this case reviewed 10 different systems, from constitutional like fever and chills to neurological to gastrointestinal. Again, this is a sign of a high complexity visit. This doctor is not cutting any corners. Now, I move on to the physical exam. The doctor's note says the patient is in moderate distress. He's tachycardic, meaning his heart rate is high, running at 110 beats per minute. His lungs are clear. His abdomen is soft. But here's something interesting. The doctor notes no calf tenderness. Why would a doctor examining a patient for chest pain be checking their legs? This is where a good coder needs to think like a clinician. We can't just be data entry clerks matching codes to words. We have to understand the why. Chest pain, shortness of breath, and a check for calf tenderness. A light bulb goes on in my head. The doctor is considering a differential diagnosis. They're not just thinking heart attack. They're thinking about other possibilities. A tender calf could be a sign of a deep vein thrombosis, or DVT, a blood clot in the leg. And if a piece of that clot breaks off, it can travel to the lungs, causing a life-threatening condition called a pulmonary embolism. The symptoms of a pulmonary embolism? Chest pain and shortness of breath. This single line, no calf tenderness, tells me the physician's mind is working on multiple tracks, and my mind has to follow. This chart just got more complex. I continue to the orders section. This is what the doctor did about their suspicions. EKG stat, troponin level stat, chest x-ray, basic cardiac workup. This is heart attack 101. The EKG looks for abnormal heart rhythms. The troponin is a cardiac enzyme. If it's elevated, it means there's been damage to the heart muscle. The chest x-ray can show if the heart is enlarged or if there's fluid in the lungs. Standard procedure. But then I see it. The next order, D-dimer. My focus sharpens. A D-dimer is a blood test. It's not typically part of a standard heart attack workup. A D-dimer test is used to help rule out the presence of a serious blood clot. This confirms it. The doctor isn't just thinking about a pulmonary embolism. They're actively investigating it. This changes everything. Suddenly, I have two potential stories running in parallel. Story A is the heart attack. It's the obvious one, the one that all the initial signs point to. Story B is the pulmonary embolism. It's the dark horse, the unexpected twist. As a coder, I can't just pick one. I have to find evidence to support the final definitive diagnosis. Every test the doctor ordered now has to be justified and linked to the patient's symptoms. The chest pain justifies the EKG and troponin. But the chest pain and the shortness of breath, combined with the context of the physical exam, is what provides the medical necessity for that D-dimer test. If I miss that connection, if I just code for a generic chest pain, the insurance company's algorithm might see that D-dimer test, flag it as unnecessary, and deny payment for it. And it's not a cheap test. That denial means the hospital eats the cost, or worse, the patient gets a bill for a test they thought was covered. My job is to be the translator between the doctor's clinical judgment and the insurance company's rigid rules. I have to build a case, using the doctor's own words, that proves every single action taken was a necessary step in solving the patient's medical mystery. The initial results are starting to come in, populating the electronic record. The EKG shows a high heart rate, but no definitive signs of a heart attack. The initial troponin level is negative. The chest x-ray is clear. The obvious answer, the heart attack, is starting to look less likely. The plot is thickening. And now the result for that D-dimer test is back. And it's elevated. Significantly elevated. Now this isn't a diagnosis. An elevated D-dimer doesn't mean the patient has a clot. It just means the possibility of a clot is much higher, and it can't be ignored. The doctor now has to take the next step. I scroll down to the newest order and there it is. The one I was expecting. CT angiogram of the chest. This is the big one. This is the definitive test. They're going to inject dye into the patient's bloodstream and take a detailed 3D scan of the arteries in their lungs to look for a blockage. This case has just escalated from a high complexity or visit to a critical, time-sensitive diagnostic challenge involving advanced imaging. And the coding is about to get a whole lot more complicated. Every piece of this puzzle, from the initial complaint of pressure to that note about no calf tenderness, has led to this exact moment. And I have to make sure the story I tell with my codes is just as precise, just as compelling, and just as accurate as the one the doctor is uncovering in real time, one floor below me. The stakes just went way, way up. The digital chart in front of me is no longer just a file. It's a story frozen in time. A story of chaos, skill, and survival. My job is to become its translator. I take a deep breath, crack my knuckles, and dive in. The first document I open is the emergency department physician's note. It's the prologue, the first chapter. It's written in a flurry, a controlled franticness that you can almost feel through the screen. Medical shorthand, acronyms, and clipped sentences paint a picture of the initial moments. MVC, motor vehicle collision, GCS 15, Glasgow coma scale of 15. That's good news. It means the patient was alert and oriented. No significant head trauma noted initially. That's a huge variable I can mentally check off for now. But my eyes scan down, hunting for the primary diagnosis, the reason this case got flagged as a high-priority, complex trauma. And there it is. Open comminuted fracture of the right distal tibia and fibula. Let's break that down. Open means the bone broke through the skin. That's an immediate escalation in severity. It's not just a broken bone anymore. It's a high-risk wound, a potential gateway for infection. Comminuted means the bone didn't just snap, it shattered. It's in multiple pieces. Think of a dinner plate dropped on a tile floor. And distal tibia and fibula tells me the location. It's the lower part of the leg, near the ankle. So the story so far. A person in a car crash has a shattered, bone-protruding injury to their lower right leg. My mind is already racing, flipping through the virtual pages of my ICD-10 codebook. This isn't a simple S82 code for a fracture. This is going to have layers. The ICD-10, or International Classification of Diseases 10th revision, is our diagnostic language. It's the what's wrong with the patient part of the equation. And it is obsessively, beautifully, sometimes absurdly specific. There are codes for being struck by a turtle, for being injured at the opera, for walking into a lamppost. The system is designed to capture the most granular detail possible. Why? Because data is everything. That data informs research, safety protocols, public health initiatives. My coding contributes to a massive global library of human health. But right now, I'm focused on this one patient. I find the base code for the fracture. But I'm not done. I have to add what we call a 7th character extension. Is this the initial encounter for this injury? A subsequent encounter for routine healing? Or is it a sequela, a late effect of the injury? In this case, it's an initial encounter. The story is happening right now. Then I look for the Gustalo-Anderson classification in the notes, which grades the severity of open fractures. The doctor documented it as a type 3A. That's another code. It tells the insurance company and anyone else reading this record that this was a severe high-energy injury with extensive soft tissue damage. We're not just talking about a broken bone, we're talking about a mangled limb. Each code I add is like a new brushstroke, adding detail and depth to the picture I'm painting. Next, I pull up the operative report from the orthopedic surgeon. This is the What We Did About It chapter. This is where we move from the language of ICD-10 to the language of CPT, or current procedural terminology. If ICD-10 is the diagnosis, CPT is the action. It's the list of every single thing our medical team did to help this patient. The surgeon's note is a masterpiece of precision. It details the procedure step by step. Patient taken to the operating room. General anesthesia was induced. The wound was copiously irrigated with 9 liters of saline. 9 liters. That alone tells you the level of contamination they were dealing with. The core procedure is an open reduction and internal fixation, or ORIF. Open reduction means the surgeon had to cut the patient open to get to the shattered bone. Internal fixation means they used hardware, plates, screws, rods, to piece it all back together like a gruesome high-stakes jigsaw puzzle. I find the CPT code for an ORIF of the tibia. But wait, the surgeon also worked on the fibula. Is that included in the main code? Or is it a separate billable procedure? This is a classic coder's dilemma. This is where you have to know the rulebook inside and out. I cross-reference the National Correct Coding Initiative edits, the NCCI. It's basically a giant rulebook for Medicare that tells us which codes can and can't be billed together to prevent fraud and abuse. A quick search confirms it. In this specific scenario, the work on the fibula is considered part of the larger work on the tibia. To code it separately would be unbundling, and that's a big no-no. It could trigger an audit and a major financial penalty for the hospital. I select the correct, all-encompassing code, but I'm still not done. Now we have to talk about modifiers. If CPT codes are the verbs of our story, modifiers are the adverbs and adjectives. They provide essential context. I need to add modifier RT to specify that this was the right side of the body. Seems obvious, but in the world of coding, you assume nothing. Every detail must be explicitly stated. What if the patient comes back in a month with a fracture on the left leg? The modifier is what distinguishes the two. I keep reading the operative report. The surgeon notes, extensive debridement of non-viable soft tissue and foreign material was performed. Debridement is the cleaning out of dead tissue, dirt, and debris from the wound. This is absolutely critical in an open fracture to prevent infection. And it's a separate, intensive procedure. The surgeon didn't just wash the wound. They had to surgically remove damaged tissue. That's more time, more skill, more risk. And it deserves its own code. I find the codes for excisional debridement. The code I choose depends on the depth of the tissue removed: skin, subcutaneous tissue, muscle, bone, and the surface area. The surgeon documented removal of tissue down to the bone, covering an area of over 20 square centimeters. I select the appropriate, high-level debridement code. This one code can be the difference of hundreds, even thousands of dollars in reimbursement. It's the difference between the hospital being paid for the actual work that was done, or being forced to eat the cost. I'm in the zone now. It's just me, the reports, and the codes. The story is coming together. The chaos of the ER, the precision of the OR. But a good coder is a skeptic. A good coder reads between the lines. I'm looking for what's not there just as much as what is. I scan the anesthesia record, the nurse's notes, the implant logs. The implant log lists every single piece of hardware used. 1 350mm intramedullary nail, 4 proximal locking screws, 3 distal locking screws. I cross-reference this with the surgeon's report. It all matches. Good. Then I see it, tucked away in the final paragraph of the operative note. A sentence that makes my heart beat a little faster. Due to significant bone loss at the fracture site, a cancellous allograft was utilized to fill the void. An allograft. That's a bone graft using tissue from a donor. The surgeon had to pack this donor bone into the gaps between the shattered pieces of the patient's tibia to provide a scaffold for new bone to grow. This is a huge deal. It's a whole other procedure. It's complex, it's expensive, and it's easy to miss if you're just skimming. I've seen less experienced coders miss this. They code the main fracture repair, the debridement, and they move on. But that one sentence changes the entire financial and data picture of this surgery. I navigate back to my CPT code set and find the add-on code for the bone graft. Click. It slots into place. The story is now complete. It's accurate. It's defensible. I lean back, and for the first time in 20 minutes I take a full breath. I've just spent almost half an hour on a single case. On my productivity tracker, that's not great. I have dozens more charts waiting in my queue. But this wasn't just about speed. This was about accuracy. My work ensures the surgeon, the anesthesiologist, the nurses, and the hospital are all compensated fairly for the incredible work they did. It ensures the patient's insurance is billed correctly, protecting them from a potential financial catastrophe on top of their physical one. And it ensures that the data going out into the world accurately reflects the severity of this injury and the complexity of the intervention required. I am the final critical link in the chain of patient care. My keyboard is my instrument, and I just composed a symphony of clinical truth. I submit the completed chart, and it vanishes from my queue. A small, quiet victory. But as the next chart loads, a pop-up flashes on my screen. It's not a patient file. It's an instant message from my manager. The subject line just says, "Urgent. Payer audit." My stomach drops. That feeling. It's like ice water. But it starts in your gut and spreads outwards, freezing your fingers over the keyboard. Every coder knows this feeling. An audit isn't just a review. It's a trial. Your work, your decisions, your professional judgment, all of it is about to be placed under a microscope by someone whose entire job is to find fault. Someone who works for the people who pay the bills. I click the flashing icon. The message is short, brutal, and to the point. Mega health insurance. They're doing a post-payment audit on all our high-level cardiology office visits from the last quarter. They've requested 30 charts, and my manager wants me to pull them. Now, so what exactly is a payer audit? Imagine you're a restaurant. You serve 100 meals and you send the bill to the customer. A month later, the customer comes back and says, "I've reviewed my receipt, and I don't think that steak was worth what you charged. In fact, I think it was just a hamburger. I want my money back." And while we're at it, I'm going to need to see the receipts for every steak you sold last month, because I suspect you've been overcharging everyone. That's a payer audit. The insurance company, the payer, has already paid us for the services we provided. Now they're coming back sometimes months later to say, "We're not so sure you actually did what you said you did. Prove it. And if you can't, we're taking our money back." This is called a clawback. It's the boogeyman in every medical practice's closet. My normal queue of patient charts is forgotten. This is priority 1. My manager has already sent me the list of 30 patient account numbers. My first task is to go into our electronic health record system, find each chart, and flag it for review. This isn't just a simple click and drag. I have to be a digital detective. I need to pull the original claim that was sent, the provider's documentation for that date of service, any diagnostic reports, lab results, correspondence, everything that was used to justify the codes I assigned. As I start pulling the charts, a pattern emerges. They're all coded as 99215. In the world of office visits, that's the big one. The highest level of complexity for an established patient. pays the most, which also means it carries the biggest target on its back. To justify a 99215, the documentation has to be pristine. It has to paint a picture of a very sick patient with a very complex problem that required a high level of medical decision-making from the doctor. My heart is pounding as I open the first chart on the list. This is my own work. My digital signature is at the bottom of that original claim. I remember this patient, an 82-year-old man with congestive heart failure, severe diabetes, and chronic kidney disease, who came in for a medication management check. I scroll through the doctor's note, my eyes scanning faster and faster. I'm not just reading it. I'm stress testing it. I'm looking for the weaknesses an auditor would exploit. Auditors are trained to think in black and white. To them, if it wasn't documented, it didn't happen. There's no room for interpretation, no benefit of the doubt. They have a checklist and your documentation either ticks the boxes or it doesn't. For a 99215, that checklist is intense. Did the doctor document a comprehensive history? Did they perform a comprehensive exam? And the big one, the medical decision-making, or MDM. This is the heart of the code. We have to prove the doctor was managing multiple complex problems, analyzing a ton of data, and facing a high risk of complications or death for the patient. In this first chart, the documentation looks solid. The doctor's note is detailed. He lists the 3 chronic problems, notes that the patient's kidney function is worsening, and documents his decision to adjust 2 different medications and order a new set of labs. I can see my original logic. The patient has 3 or more chronic illnesses. The doctor is managing prescription drugs. The problem is severe. Check, check, check. This is a textbook 99215. I breathe a small sigh of relief. 1 down, 29 to go. I move to the next chart, and the next. For the most part, they look good. Our cardiologists are generally excellent documenters. But then I get to chart number 12. My stomach clenches again. I remember this one too. A patient with a new onset arrhythmia, a heart rhythm problem. I coded it as a 99215 because the doctor had to consider multiple treatment options, including hospitalization. The risk was high. But as I reread the note now, through the cold, unforgiving eyes of an auditor, I see a potential problem. The doctor's thought process is there, but it's not explicitly spelled out. He writes, discuss treatment options with patient. He doesn't write, I considered admitting the patient to the hospital due to risk of stroke, but we opted to first try an outpatient Holter monitor and a new beta blocker, with a plan to follow up in 48 hours. To me, as a coder who understands the clinical context, the high level of risk is implied. But an auditor from Mega Health Insurance, who is sitting in a cubicle 1,000 miles away and looking at 100 charts a day, they might just see discussed options. They might say that's not enough to support the highest level of risk. They could argue this should have been a 9921 for a level 4 visit. The difference in payment between a 99214 and a 99215 might only be $50 or $60. But multiply that by the thousands of these services a clinic performs in a year. Then an auditor can extrapolate. They can say, based on this sample of 30 charts, we found a 10% error rate. Therefore, we assume a 10% error rate on all 2,000 of the 99,215s you billed us last year. And just like that, they demand a clawback of $20,000. And they can do it for every doctor, every specialty. The numbers can get terrifyingly big very fast. This is the pressure. It's not just about being right. It's about creating an ironclad, unimpeachable record that proves you're right. My job now is to build a defense. For chart number 12, I can't change the doctor's note. That would be illegal. But I can write a rebuttal. I can prepare a summary that connects the dots for the auditor. I open a separate document and start drafting an appeal letter, even though we haven't officially been denied yet. I write, regarding patient account number, while the provider did not explicitly state risk of hospitalization, the diagnosis of new onset atrial fibrillation in a patient with this specific risk profile carries an inherent, well-documented risk of thromboembolic events, including stroke. The decision to initiate anticoagulation therapy and perform urgent cardiac monitoring reflects a high-risk management strategy aimed at mitigating these severe outcomes. I'm becoming a lawyer. I'm citing clinical practice guidelines. I'm building a case file. I do this for 2 other charts that have similar, slight ambiguities. They're defensible, but they're weak spots. They're the cracks in the armor that an auditor will try to wedge a crowbar into. The afternoon sun is starting to fade, casting long shadows across my desk. I've been at this for hours. My regular work is piling up. The productivity meter is a distant, mocking memory. This is the other side of coding. It's not just about speed and accuracy. It's about diligence and defensibility. It's about understanding that every code you assign is a statement you might one day have to defend in a high-stakes financial argument. Finally, I have all 30 charts, along with their supporting documentation and my preemptive appeal notes, bundled into a secure digital folder. I attach it to an email, my fingers hovering over the mouse. I write a simple message to my manager. Here are the records for the mega health audit. I've flagged 3 charts that may draw scrutiny and included my rationale for the codes assigned. Please let me know the next steps. I hit send. The folder vanishes from my screen, off into the corporate ether where battles with insurance companies are fought. It's out of my hands now, for the moment, but I know this is just the beginning. We've sent our proof. Now we wait for the verdict and the potential fallout. I take a deep breath, trying to push the anxiety down, and turn back to my regular queue. There's a chart waiting. A 45-year-old male, here for a follow-up. The diagnosis: chest pain. Chest pain. It's one of the most common and most vague chief complaints you'll ever see. It's a coding minefield. On the surface, it's simple. The code for unspecified chest pain, or 07.9, is right there. Easy. But easy is lazy. Easy is how you get audits. Easy is how you leave money on the table for the hospital and create a messy, incomplete record for the patient. My job isn't to find the easy answer. It's to find the right one, buried in the doctor's narrative. I open the electronic health record. The digital page is a familiar landscape of tabs and fields. History of present illness, review of systems, physical exam, labs, imaging. This is my treasure map. The diagnosis is the X that marks the spot, but I have to follow the clues to prove it's real. The doctor's note begins. Patient is a 45-year-old male with a history of hypertension and GERD, presenting for follow-up on intermittent, non-exertional chest pain. Okay, 2 immediate flags: hypertension and GERD, high blood pressure and acid reflux. The chest pain could be cardiac, or it could be gastrointestinal. The doctor's job is to figure out which. My job is to translate their findings into a universal language of codes. I scroll down. Pain is described as a burning sensation, primarily after meals, and is not associated with shortness of breath, sweating, or radiation to the arm. This is a huge clue. Burning and after meals screams gastrointestinal. Not associated with shortness of breath or arm radiation points away from a classic heart attack or myocardial infarction. My internal coding compass is starting to swing away from the I chapter of the ICD-10 manual, the circulatory system, and toward the K chapter, the digestive system. But you never ever assume. Atypical cardiac symptoms are common, so I keep digging. I click on the Orders tab. The doctor ordered an EKG in the office. Smart. Rule out the scary stuff first. I pull up the report. Normal sinus rhythm. No acute ST segment elevation or depression. In plain English, the EKG is clean. The patient's heart shows no signs of active distress or damage. This is another heavy piece of evidence pushing me away from a cardiac diagnosis. Back to the physician's note. Under the assessment and plan section, the holy grail for a coder, the doctor has written their conclusion. 1. Atypical chest pain, likely secondary to gastroesophageal reflux disease. 2. Hypertension stable. 3. GERD. And there it is. The story is complete. The patient came in with a symptom: chest pain. The doctor, through their examination and testing, determined the most likely cause was the patient's known acid reflux. They didn't just treat the symptom, they linked it to a definitive diagnosis. So I won't be using our 07.9 for unspecified chest pain. That code is for when the cause is still unknown. Using it here would be inaccurate. It would tell the insurance company, and any future doctor looking at this chart, that we don't know why his chest hurt. But we do. The doctor told us. Instead, the primary diagnosis is K21.9, gastroesophageal reflux disease without esophagitis. This code tells the whole story. The symptom, chest pain, was investigated and attributed to a specific, underlying condition, GERD. I'll also code the stable hypertension I-10 as a chronic condition that was monitored during the visit. The level of service, the E&M code, will be a 99213, an established patient office visit of low complexity. The documentation supports it perfectly. The EKG has its own CPT code for the technical reading. Click, click, click. I link the diagnoses to the visit. It's a neat, tidy, and most importantly accurate package. Defensible. Audit-proof. I close the chart, and for a second I feel that familiar quiet satisfaction. A puzzle solved. A story told correctly. But the feeling evaporates almost instantly. The screen refreshes, showing my cue, and my eyes dart to the bottom right corner of my monitor. The little envelope icon for my email. It's still sitting there, impassive. No new notifications. The silence from Jennifer, my manager, about the big audit appeal is deafening. Waiting is the worst part. It's a low-grade hum of anxiety that sits underneath everything else. It makes even the most straightforward charts like the one I just finished feel heavier. Every coder has a story about the one that got away. A claim they fought for. A denial they knew was wrong. A doctor's note that was a masterpiece of ambiguity. These stories are our battle scars. But this one, the one with the high-dollar implant, feels different. It's not just about being right. It's about the system, the faceless reviewer on the other end, the algorithm that might have flagged the claim in the first place. It feels like I'm not just defending a code. I'm defending my judgment. My professionalism. I grab the next chart. A routine diabetes checkup. E11.9, type 2 diabetes mellitus without complications. Z79.4, long-term use of insulin. It's muscle memory. I can code these in my sleep. But my mind isn't on the codes. It's replaying my email to Jennifer. Was the tone right? Did I include enough supporting documentation? Should I have quoted the specific guideline from the payer's own manual? Maybe I should have. Ping. The sound cuts through the silence of my office like a gunshot. My head snaps up. It's an email. The sender, Jennifer. The subject line. Reclaim hashtag 77B42-9. My heart does a drum solo against my ribs. This is it. I stare at the line of text in my inbox. Feels like a sleeping snake. I could just leave it there. I could code 3 or 4 more charts, pretend I didn't see it, and live in a state of blissful ignorance for another 20 minutes. But that's not me. I have to know. My hand feels strangely heavy as I move the mouse. The cursor hovers over the email. I take a breath, hold it, and click. The email is short, terse. They responded. They're upholding the denial. The air goes out of my lungs. A hot flush of anger and disappointment washes over me. Upholding the denial? After all that? After the clear-as-day operative report? I read the line again and then a third time as if the words might change. They don't. We lost. I was wrong. Or at least I failed to prove I was right. The fallout from this is going to be bad. A write-off of that size gets attention from the finance department. From the C-suite. Then I see the second line of the email. They agree the CPT code was correct. Wait, what? I sit up straight, leaning into the screen. How can both of those things be true? How can they agree the code was right but still deny the claim? It makes no sense. It's a complete contradiction. It's like a cop pulling you over, agreeing you weren't speeding but giving you a speeding ticket anyway. My confusion is quickly replaced by a new wave of dread as I read the final sentence of Jennifer's email. The denial is for the diagnosis code linkage. They say the implant wasn't medically necessary for the patient's primary diagnosis. I need to see you in my office. Now. Oh no. Oh, this is so much worse. This isn't about a simple coding error anymore. This is an attack on the doctor's medical judgment. The insurance company isn't saying we billed it wrong. They're saying the doctor shouldn't have done the procedure at all. And I'm the one who linked the procedure code to the diagnosis code. I'm the one who sent them the bill that told that story. The story they're now calling a work of fiction. I push my chair back, my legs feeling unsteady. The walk to Jennifer's office feels like a mile. Every head I pass in the cubicle farm seems to be looking at me. They probably don't even know. But in my head, a giant neon sign is flashing above me. Denied. I get to her door. It's slightly ajar. I can see her at her desk, head in her hands. She looks up as I knock softly on the frame. Her expression is grim. It's not the look of a manager who's angry at her employee. It's the look of a manager who's about to go to war and needs to know who's in the trenches with her. Close the door, she says, her voice flat. I step inside and click the door shut. The sound echoes in the small office. She gestures to the chair opposite her desk. I sit down, my hands clasped in my lap to keep them from shaking. This is a mess, she starts, not wasting any time. A big one. They're not just denying this one claim. They've initiated a full-scale provider audit on Dr. Miller. They're going to review every single surgery he's performed using this implant for the last 2 years. A cold knot forms in my stomach. An audit. That's the word that makes every coder, every practice manager, every doctor go silent. It's not just about money. It's about being put under a microscope. It's the accusation, spoken or unspoken, that you did something wrong, that you were either incompetent or, worse, fraudulent. And a full-scale provider audit is the nuclear option. It means they aren't just questioning a single bill. They're questioning the doctor's integrity, his pattern of care, everything. 2 years. Every single patient who received that implant. We're not talking about a few $1,000s anymore. We're talking about a potential clawback that could cripple the practice. A clawback is exactly what it sounds like. They demand you pay back every dollar they ever paid you for those services. Could be hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of dollars. My mind is already racing, flipping through a mental Rolodex of regulations, modifier rules, and documentation requirements. David looks pale. For the first time since I've known him, his confident, almost cocky demeanor is gone. He's just staring at me, waiting. He's the business guy, the manager. But this is my world. This is the battlefield where my expertise is the only weapon we have. I take a deep breath. The smell of stale coffee and disinfectant suddenly sharp in my nostrils. Okay, I say, and my voice is calmer than I feel. Okay, first thing, we don't panic. Panic makes mistakes. Second, get me everything. I want every chart, every operative note, every pre-authorization, every denial letter, and every single piece of correspondence related to CPT code 2-2-8-5-3 with this specific implant for the last 24 months. I want it all in a dedicated folder on the server by the end of the day. David nods, grabbing a notepad. You got it. Third, I continue, my focus narrowing. Schedule a meeting with me, you, and Dr. Miller for 7 a.m. tomorrow. No patients, no interruptions. We need a war council. For the rest of the day, my regular work queue sits untouched. The denials for routine office visits, the queries about physical therapy billing. It all feels trivial now. My entire focus shifts to the audit. The IT department gives me priority access, and soon my screen is a grid of patient files. 117 of them. 117 lives, 117 complex spinal surgeries, now reduced to a list of potential liabilities. I don't start by looking for a mistake. That's a rookie move. You don't go hunting for your own errors first. You start by building your defense. You assume you did everything right and you set out to prove it. I open the first file. A 52-year-old construction worker, debilitating back pain for years. I read his story not as a coder but as a person. I read the physical therapy notes detailing months of failed conservative treatment. I read the MRI report describing severe spinal stenosis. I read Dr. Miller's consultation note, his careful, precise language laying out the case for why this specific implant was not just an option, but the best option for this man's quality of life. Then I switch gears. I become the coder again. I scrutinize my own work. Did I link the correct ICD-10 diagnosis codes to the CPT procedure code? Yes. The primary diagnosis, M48.062, spinal stenosis of the lumbar region, is right there. Did I append the correct modifiers? Yes. Everything is clean. The operative note from Dr. Miller is a masterpiece of detail. It's a step-by-step account of the surgery, and it clearly supports every single code I build. The medical necessity is ironclad. I close the first chart feeling a small surge of confidence. 1 down, 116 to go. I move to the next, and the next. For hours I live inside these records. I see the patterns of pain, the hope in the consultation notes, the clinical precision of the surgical reports. And with each one I see the same thing. Perfect textbook documentation and coding. By 6 p.m. my eyes are burning, but I've reviewed nearly 30 charts. They're all solid. There's no fraud here. There isn't even a simple mistake. So why the audit? Insurance companies don't spend the time and resources for a full-scale provider audit unless they're sure they're going to find something. They have a reason. They've found a thread, and they're pulling on it, hoping the whole sweater unravels. What was that thread? The next morning, the conference room is thick with tension. Dr. Miller sits at the head of the table, his face etched with a fatigue that has nothing to do with a long night on call. He's a brilliant surgeon, one of the best. But right now, he looks like a man who sees his life's work being threatened. I don't understand, he says, his voice low. We do good work. We document everything. We help people. I know, I say, opening my laptop. And your documentation is fantastic. I spent 8 hours yesterday reviewing the first 30 cases, and from a coding and documentation standpoint, they are bulletproof. A flicker of relief crosses his face, but David cuts in. Then why are they doing this? It doesn't make sense. It makes perfect sense if they're not looking for a mistake in the coding. I reply, pulling up a file on the large monitor. They're looking for a weakness in the narrative of medical necessity. They're betting that somewhere in these 117 cases, we can't perfectly prove that this expensive implant was the only viable option. I point to a section in a preoperative note. Right here. You documented that the patient failed 6 weeks of physical therapy. That's good. But their internal clinical policy, which they don't always publish openly, might say that for this specific condition, the patient needs to have failed 8 weeks of therapy, plus a round of steroid injections before surgery is considered medically necessary. Dr. Miller leans forward. But that's a clinical decision. I make that call based on the patient in front of me, not some arbitrary rule from an insurance clerk. I know, I say gently. And you're right. But we're not in a courtroom of medicine. We're in a courtroom of insurance policy. And in their court, their rules are the only ones that matter. My job in that moment transforms. I'm no longer just a coder. I'm a detective, a lawyer, and a storyteller. I have to rebuild the story of each of these 117 patients, but I have to tell it in the language the insurance company understands, the language of their own policies. I spend the next 2 days locked in my office, fueled by caffeine and a stubborn refusal to let a good doctor be railroaded. I cross-reference every claim with every known clinical policy bulletin from this specific payer. I build a massive spreadsheet, a fortress of data. In one column, the patient. In the next, the diagnosis. In the next, the specific documentation proving failure of conservative care. I'm looking for our weak point, the one case they found that triggered this whole nightmare. And then, late on the third day, I find it. It's not in the most recent charts. It's in a file from about 18 months ago. The documentation is a little lighter than Dr. Miller's current standard. It's not wrong, it's just less robust. He mentions the patient failed conservative therapy, but doesn't specify the duration in the final pre-op consult. The details are buried in the physical therapist's referral notes from another office, which we had to request and scan into the chart. It's all there, but it's not presented as cleanly. It's the thread. This one chart was the excuse they needed. But as I stare at the date on that chart, a cold dread washes over me. I pull up another chart from a week later, and another from the week after that, and I see it. It's not just one chart. It's a pattern, but the pattern isn't our documentation getting weaker. Something else. I start digging into the insurance company's provider portal, going back through months of newsletters and policy updates, searching for a keyword, any keyword, related to spinal fusions. And then I find it, buried in a quarterly provider update from 19 months ago. A single paragraph. It's a notification of a change to the clinical policy for CPT code 2-8-5-3, a new stricter definition of what constitutes failure of conservative therapy, including specific timeframes and required treatments. A policy that went into effect just 1 week before that first weaker chart I found. My heart hammers in my chest. We never saw it. It was a minor notification, easily missed. We had been coding and documenting to the standard that had been accepted for years, but they had changed the rules of the game. They let us keep doing it for 18 months. They kept paying the claims. And now they were coming back to take it all away using a policy change they barely announced. This wasn't an audit to find a mistake. It was a planned, calculated ambush. The room went silent. Not a quiet silent, but a loud, suffocating silence where you can hear your own blood pounding in your ears. $1.2 million. That wasn't a number, it was a death sentence for a clinic our size. The practice manager, a woman who had weathered every storm for 20 years, just slowly sat down in her chair, her face ashen. The lead physician stood up, walked to the window, and just stared out at the parking lot, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. He wasn't looking at anything. He was looking at the end of his life's work. This is the part of the job that nobody ever tells you about. It's not about codes and modifiers anymore. It's about survival. That letter wasn't a request for repayment. It was an execution order. And in that moment I felt a surge of something I didn't expect. Pure, unadulterated rage. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't an oversight. This was a predator cornering its prey, and they had been stalking us for 18 months. They knew exactly what they were doing. They watched the money flow out, knowing full well they had a hidden clause that would let them suck it all back in with interest. The doctor finally turned from the window. He looked right at me. Not at the practice manager, not at the billing lead. At me. He said, "Can they do this?" And the entire weight of that question, the future of 50 employees, the care of thousands of patients, it landed right on my desk. My job title is Certified Professional Coder, but in that instant it became last line of defense. I took a deep breath and said the only thing I could. "I don't know, but I'm going to find out." That night, the office was a ghost town, except for our little war room. Me, the practice manager, and the doctor. We had takeout containers scattered around and the coffee machine was working overtime. The first step was to understand the battlefield. The insurance company's letter cited a policy update, number 2021-14. It was a change to the billing requirements for services provided by our nurse practitioners and physician assistants. Specifically, it was about something called incident billing. Let me break this down because it's the kind of bureaucratic nightmare that costs real people their jobs. For years, the rule was simple. If a patient saw our NP for a follow-up on a problem that one of our doctors had already established a plan for, we could bill that visit under the doctor's provider number, as long as the doctor was physically present in the office suite. It's a standard common practice across the entire country. It allows clinics to see more patients and provide efficient care. But this policy update 2021-C14 had added a single devastating sentence. It stipulated that for a visit to qualify as incident to, the supervising physician must personally co-sign and date the note on the same calendar day the service was rendered. It's a tiny change, a seemingly innocent administrative tweak, but it was a landmine. We had never operated that way. Our electronic health record system wasn't set up for it. Our workflow wasn't designed for it. For 18 months, we had been following a rulebook that, unbeknownst to us, was missing a page. It was like driving the speed limit, only to find out they secretly lowered it a year ago, and were now ticketing you for every trip you ever made. Our first desperate hope was that they never told us. We started digging. We tore through 18 months of emails, provider newsletters, and website updates. We were looking for the smoking gun, proof that this communication never reached us. For hours, we found nothing. It was demoralizing. Every empty search result felt like another nail in the coffin. The doctor was pacing, the manager was rubbing her temples, and I was just clicking, scrolling, searching, my eyes burning from the screen. And then I found it. It was almost midnight. I was about to give up, to tell them that we were, by the letter of their predatory law, in the wrong. I decided to try one last, obscure search term. I searched the insurance company's public-facing provider portal, not our internal emails. And there it was, buried. It wasn't an email. It wasn't a direct notification. It was a link in the 4th paragraph of a monthly provider bulletin from 2 years ago. The link's text just said, Q3 policy updates. It didn't mention incident to. It didn't mention NPs or PAs. It was designed to be ignored. You had to click that link, which took you to another page. On that page were 20 other links to different policy updates. You had to find the one titled Evaluation and Management Services. Then you had to open that 30-page PDF. And on page 22 in section 4 subparagraph C was the new sentence. The one that was about to bankrupt us. I printed it out. I highlighted the trail. The bulletin, the link, the subpage, the PDF, the page number, the sentence. It was a breadcrumb trail so convoluted, so deliberately obscure, that it couldn't be accidental. This wasn't notification. This was malicious compliance. They had fulfilled their legal obligation to notify us in the most technically true but practically useless way imaginable. They hid the new rule in plain sight. I slid the papers across the table. The doctor and the manager leaned in to read. The silence returned, but this time it was different. It wasn't the silence of despair. It was the focused electric silence of a team that just found a crack in the enemy's armor. The practice manager looked up at me, a slow, determined fire igniting in her eyes. "That's not notification," she said, her voice low and steady. "That's concealment." The doctor picked up the page. "They're betting we won't fight," he said. "They're betting we'll see the $1 million bill, panic, and just roll over and set up a payment plan. They do this to 100 clinics, and 80 of them probably just pay." He looked at me. "But we're not one of them, are we?" And that's when the mission changed. We weren't just trying to survive anymore. We were going to war. The next several days were a blur. My job as a coder transformed into a forensic accountant and a legal analyst. The first step was to quantify everything. We couldn't just say they hid the policy. We had to prove that their method of communication was unreasonable and created an impossible burden. I built a massive spreadsheet. Every single claim they were clawing back. Every patient, every date of service, every CPT code. One by one, I cross-referenced them with our electronic health records. I painstakingly documented that for every single one of those thousands of visits, a supervising physician was, in fact, physically present in the office suite, meeting the old standard. We had card swipe logs, appointment schedules, and internal chat records to prove it. We were following the spirit of the law and the industry standard perfectly. Then we started building our official appeal. This wasn't just a letter. It was a legal brief. We started with a communication issue, laying out the absurd path one had to follow to find the policy change. We argued that this method did not meet the standard of reasonable notification required in our contract. We included screenshots, links, and a step-by-step guide to show just how buried it was. Next, we addressed the substance. We showed our compliance with the previous long-standing policy. We attached hundreds of pages of logs and records as evidence. We argued that a policy change this significant, which alters a core workflow for a practice, requires direct, unambiguous communication, not a hidden link in a newsletter. We argued that their retroactive application of this poorly communicated rule was not a good faith audit, but a predatory financial maneuver. Every word was chosen with surgical precision. Every claim was backed by evidence. We weren't just asking for mercy. We were building a case so strong, so logical, and so damning that for them to deny it would be to admit their own bad faith. We compiled everything, our argument, the spreadsheet with thousands of lines of data, the supporting evidence, into a single massive 400-page digital file. It was David's slingshot, loaded with a mountain of data. After a week of nonstop work, it was ready. The three of us gathered around my computer screen one last time. The file was attached to an email addressed to the insurance company's head of provider appeals. My finger hovered over the mouse. This was it. This was our one shot. Everything, the clinic, the jobs, the patients, it all came down to this single click. We were throwing our meticulously crafted argument into the void, hoping someone on the other side was reasonable. Or, at the very least, afraid of the lawsuit we were implicitly threatening. I took a breath, looked at my team, and I clicked send. The silence in the room was deafening. The only sound was the low hum of our computer towers, a stark contrast to the frantic energy of the past few hours. We didn't celebrate. We didn't high-five. We just sat there, staring at the screen where the sent confirmation now glowed. It felt less like a victory and more like we had just launched a message in a bottle into a vast, indifferent ocean. Now the worst part began, the waiting. The first few days were a study in forced normalcy. I went back to my coding routine procedures, outpatient visits, follow-ups, a gallbladder removal, a knee scope, a consult for chronic migraines. Each one was a story, a person, a problem solved. But they all felt small. My mind kept drifting back to the big one, to Jane's file. Every time a new email notification popped up, my heart would leap into my throat. The subject line would read, updated canteen menu or reminder, Q3 compliance training. And the disappointment was a physical thud in my chest. A week passed, then another. The initial adrenaline had long since worn off, replaced by a slow-burning anxiety. In our team meetings, we'd talk about it in hushed tones. Heard anything? Not yet. It was like a ghost haunting our department. We'd even started to second-guess ourselves. Was our argument as strong as we thought? Did we miss a crucial detail? Did the appeal even get to the right person? Or was it languishing in some automated inbox, flagged and forgotten by an algorithm? The insurance world is a bureaucracy of epic proportions, a labyrinth designed to wear you down. And we were feeling it. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon 3.5 weeks later, it happened. An email. The sender was from the insurance company's senior appeals division. The subject line was just the case number. My mouse hovered over it for what felt like an eternity. My breath caught. The entire team, sensing the shift in energy, slowly gathered behind my desk, their eyes glued to my monitor. This was it. The moment of truth. My finger trembled as I clicked. The email was short, terse even. It was a PDF attachment with a one-page letter. I opened it. My eyes scanned past the corporate letterhead, the legal disclaimers, the formal salutations. I was looking for a single word. Denied. Upheld. or approved. And there it was. After a comprehensive review of the submitted documentation and clinical rationale, we have overturned the initial denial. The claim will be reprocessed and paid in full. For a second, nobody moved. We just stared. We reread the sentence. Then again. It was like our brains couldn't quite process it. Then a slow smile spread across my face. My colleague Sarah let out a whoop that echoed through the entire floor. The tension that had been coiling in my shoulders for weeks finally blessedly released. We won. We actually won. It wasn't just a win for our hospital's bottom line, which was a staggering $87,000. It was a win for Jane. It meant her family wouldn't get a bill that would financially cripple them. It meant her parents could focus on her recovery, not on fighting a faceless corporation. It meant a little girl got the life-saving care she needed, and the system for once worked as it should. And that, right there, is the part of this job nobody ever tells you about. They tell you about the certifications, the guidelines, the software. They don't tell you about the feeling of being a patient's last line of defense. We aren't just assigning numbers to procedures. We are translators. We take the complex, beautiful, messy language of medicine, the doctor's notes, the surgical reports, the lab results, and we translate it into the rigid, unforgiving language of finance and data. That translation has to be perfect, because if it's wrong, if a single detail is missed, the entire story falls apart. A patient gets a surprise bill for thousands of dollars. A hospital has to eat the cost of a procedure, threatening its ability to care for the next patient who comes through the door. A doctor's life-saving work is reduced to an error message. Service not medically necessary. My job is to make sure that message is never sent. My job is to be the guardian of the story. I'm a detective piecing together clues from a 20-page operative report to justify why a more complex procedure was needed. I'm a lawyer, building a case with evidence-based guidelines and peer-reviewed articles to argue against an unjust denial. And I'm a storyteller, weaving all of it together into a narrative so clear, so compelling, that a claims adjuster 1,000 miles away has no choice but to understand. People think medical coding is just quiet, solitary data entry. They picture us in a dim basement, surrounded by dusty books, just punching numbers into a computer. And sure, there are quiet moments. There's a lot of intense focus required. But it's so much more dynamic than that. I talk with doctors every single day, asking them to clarify their documentation. Doctor, can you be more specific about the location of the lesion? Was the procedure on the left side or the right? Those small questions can be the difference between a paid claim and a denial. I collaborate with the billing department, with patient advocates, with the compliance officers who make sure we're following federal regulations to the letter. We are a team, a critical part of the healthcare ecosystem that is completely invisible to the patient, but vital to their well-being. And it's a field with incredible potential. You don't start as a coder and end as a coder unless you want to. This is a foundation. From here, you can become an auditor, reviewing the work of other coders. You can move into management, leading a team. You can specialize in compliance, becoming the hospital's expert on complex Medicare and Medicaid rules. You can become an educator, teaching the next generation. Or you can become a consultant, a hired gun brought in to solve the toughest reimbursement puzzles for healthcare systems across the country. It's a career built on a love of learning, because medicine and the rules that govern it are constantly evolving. So why should you, watching this, care about any of this? Because whether you know it or not, a professional coder has had an impact on your life. Every time you've gone to the doctor, every bill you've received, every explanation of benefits you've tried to decipher, our work is woven into the fabric of that experience. We are the reason the system, as flawed as it is, functions at all. We are fighting to make it more accurate, more efficient, and more just. As I start to pack up my bag for the day, my screensaver a picture of the Grand Canyon, I glance over at my desk. The physical file for Jane is closed, sitting in the outbox to be archived. It's just a manila folder like hundreds of others. But to me, it's a trophy. It's a reminder that what I do isn't about codes, or modifiers, or billing units. It's about people. It's about making sure a little girl gets to go home healthy. It's about protecting a family from bankruptcy. It's about ensuring that the incredible work of our doctors and nurses is valued and sustained. Every single number I type has a human consequence. Every keystroke matters. And in a world of spreadsheets and data, that is a profoundly human job to have. That is a day in the life.